The kitchen clock ticked softly, its rhythm swallowed by the silence of Evelyn Harper's modest Seattle bungalow. At 68, Evelyn sat alone at her dining table, a single candle flickering atop a store-bought cupcake. Her gray curls were neatly pinned, her favorite cardigan draped over her shoulders, and a faint smile played on her lips as she made a quiet wish. It wasn't for herself, she'd stopped wishing for herself years ago. Instead, she whispered a hope for her 3 grown children, scattered across the country, living lives that felt worlds away from the home where they'd once laughed and argued over Sunday dinners. Today was her birthday, and for the 3rd year in a row, she celebrated alone. Evelyn wasn't bitter. She understood. Her eldest, Michael, 42, was a high-flying lawyer in New York, always chasing the next case, his phone calls brief and distracted. Sarah, 39, was a pediatric nurse in Denver, her days consumed by patients and her nights by exhaustion. And the youngest, Lucas, 35, was a freelance artist in Los Angeles, perpetually figuring things out. They'd sent cards, Michael's embossed with his firm's logo, Sarah's with a rushed handwritten note, Lucas's a colorful sketch, but none had called today. None had visited. Evelyn blew out the candle, the wax dripping onto the cupcake's icing, and took a small bite. It tasted of vanilla and solitude. She glanced at the photo on the mantel, her children as kids, grinning in the backyard, mud on their sneakers from a summer rain. Evelyn had raised them alone after their father left when Lucas was still in diapers. She'd worked double shifts as a school librarian, stretched every paycheck, and poured her heart into giving them a life better than her own. She'd never asked for thanks, only connection. But as the years passed, the distance grew not just in miles, but in the quiet spaces where conversations used to be. Evelyn's phone buzzed, breaking the silence. A text from Sarah. Asterisk happy birthday, Mom. Crazy day at the hospital. We'll call soon. Love you. Asterisk Evelyn smiled, typing a quick thank you, sweetheart, before setting the phone down. She didn't expect the call. She never did anymore. What her children didn't know was that Evelyn had been keeping a secret. 6 months ago, a routine checkup revealed a shadow on her lung. The diagnosis came swiftly, stage 4. She'd chosen not to tell them, not wanting to burden their busy lives. Instead, she'd spend her days quietly preparing, not for death, but for what she'd leave behind. Her will, tucked in a locked drawer, was more than a legal document. It was a testament to a life of unseen sacrifices. The next morning, Evelyn didn't wake up. A neighbor found her, still in her cardigan, a half-eaten cupcake on the table. The news reached her children like a thunderclap. Michael caught the first flight from New York, his briefcase forgotten in his rush. Sarah drove through the night from Denver, tears blurring the highway. Lucas, bleary-eyed and unshaven, arrived last, his sketchbook clutched like a lifeline. They gathered in the bungalow, the air thick with grief and guilt. None of them had known she was sick. None had been there. The reading of the will was held a week later in a small attorney's office, the kind of place that smelled of old paper and coffee. The lawyer, a kind-eyed woman named Ms. Patel, adjusted her glasses and began. Evelyn Harper's estate is modest, she said, but her wishes are specific. Michael leaned forward, expecting a straightforward split of the house and savings. Sarah clutched a tissue, her eyes red. Lucas stared at the floor, sketching absently in his mind. Ms. Patel slid 3 envelopes across the table, each labeled with a child's name and Evelyn's careful handwriting. Your mother left these for you, she said. But there's more. She read aloud. The house, worth $300,000, wasn't to be sold. Instead, it was to be converted into a community center for single parents, a place for free childcare, job training, and support. Evelyn's savings, $120,000, would fund its first 2 years. The children exchanged glances, stunned. Evelyn had never mentioned this. But the real shock came next. Each of you, Ms. Patel continued, must contribute to the center's mission for 1 year before receiving your personal inheritance. Michael, Evelyn asks you to provide pro bono legal aid for the center's clients. Sarah, she requests you volunteer as a health educator. Lucas, she wants you to teach art to the children. If you choose not to, your share of the remaining estate, $50,000 each, will be donated to the center. Michael's jaw tightened. She's guilt-tripping us from the grave, he muttered. Sarah shook her head, tears falling. No, she's giving us a chance to do better. Lucas said nothing, his fingers tracing the envelope in his hands. Inside their envelopes were letters, each a piece of Evelyn's heart. Michael's read, Asterisk, you've always fought for justice, but you've forgotten how to love. This center is your chance to fight for people, not just cases. I believe in you. Asterisk Sarah said, asterisk your heart is big, but you're drowning in duty. Help these families, and you'll find yourself again. Asterisk Lucas's was simplest. Asterisk you see beauty in everything but yourself. Teach these kids to see it too. You're enough. Asterisk. The siblings left the office in silence, each wrestling with their mother's words. Michael, used to winning, felt exposed. Evelyn had seen his loneliness beneath the corner office. Sarah, who gave everything to her patients, realized she'd neglected her own family. Lucas, always running from stability, felt the weight of his mother's faith in him. They agreed to try, if only to honor her. The first months were awkward. Michael, stiff in his suits, sat with single mothers navigating custody battles, his sharp edges softening as he listened to their stories. Sarah taught classes on health and stress, her own exhaustion easing as she connected with parents who reminded her of Evelyn. Lucas, initially hesitant, found joy in watching kids paint their dreams, their messy strokes mirroring his own. But the real turning point came one rainy afternoon at the center, now called Harper House. A young mother, Maria, broke down in Michael's office, terrified of losing her son to foster care. Michael, Sarah, and Lucas worked together, Michael with legal aid, Sarah with resources, Lucas with art therapy for the boy. They won the case, and Maria's tearful gratitude cracked something open in them. For the first time in years, they felt like siblings again, bound not just by blood but by purpose. On what would have been Evelyn's 69th birthday, they gathered at Harper House. The center was thriving, laughter filled the halls, parents found jobs, kids painted murals. Michael, no longer rushing back to New York, announced he'd stay in Seattle to oversee the center's legal programs. Sarah had applied for a part-time role, balancing her hospital work with volunteering. Lucas, inspired by the kids, was creating a community art exhibit. They stood in the backyard, where Evelyn's old garden bloomed brighter than ever. Sarah pulled out the cupcake tradition, lighting a candle for their mother. She knew, Sarah said, her voice thick. She knew we needed this. Lucas nodded, his sketchbook open to a drawing of the four of them, Evelyn included, smiling in the garden. She gave us more than money. She gave us each other. Michael, usually so composed, wiped his eyes. I wish I'd come to her birthday. They blew out the candle together, their wishes unspoken but shared, to keep Evelyn's legacy alive, to be the family she'd always believed they could be. Harper House became a beacon, not just for Seattle but for anyone who needed a second chance. And in every laugh, every helping hand, Evelyn's love lived on, proving that even in absence, a mother's kindness could change everything.